Cardi, come on now. You have to give yourself at least a week before jumping back into something publicly. 7 days. That's all anyone is asking for. What's good, everybody? O'Shea Duke Jackson back again with another episode of Celebrity Junk. Let's get into it. Stefan Diggs just walked away from a legal battle involving his former personal chef, Mila Adams. And while he came out on the winning side of that case, his public image has taken a serious hit in the process. The details that came out were not flattering. On top of that, there have been reports of him being involved with multiple women, having children in various situations, and even facing lawsuits for men. It's been a rough stretch for his reputation, regardless of how the legal outcome landed. And through all of that turbulence, Cardi B had seemingly reached her limit. She publicly distanced herself from the relationship for a period, most notably around the time the New England Patriots made the Super Bowl and got handled by the Seattle Seahawks. But as of this week, the two appear to be back together. They were spotted together at a Mother's Day event, looking comfortable and close. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you look at Stefan Diggs as a person, he exists in a strange middle ground. On paper, he has the financial profile of a successful professional athlete. But in terms of his behavior and the patterns that have been documented, the infidelity, the deception, the alleged verbal abuse, he represents everything most people would not want for someone they care about in a relationship. And yet here's Cardi B, who spent years dealing with similar issues during her time with Offset, now finding herself in what looks like the same dynamic with a different person. A lot of her own fan base has been vocal about the fact that she deserves better, but I think I may have found the pattern that explains all of this.
A man who got himself together, a grown man who is financially stable, don't have no outside children. This is a man who is emotionally intelligent. Like, the list goes on. A man who has standards. That is a lot of pressure to somebody who ain't ready to step up and be the type of woman who could keep that type of man, right? Because not only are you going to have to up the type of woman you are as far as how you act, because he will easily replace you. See, a man with options is completely different than a Pookie who just happy to have you because you're the best thing that he's ever been able to pull.
A woman who wasn't even directly commenting on this specific situation actually laid out something worth paying attention to. Her point was that many women gravitate toward a certain type of man, the kind who doesn't demand much from them. A man who doesn't require growth, doesn't set a high standard, and essentially allows a woman to stay exactly who she already is. No challenge, no pressure to evolve. But here's the flip side of that observation. If most men fall into that low-effort category, then by extension, a large portion of women have conditioned themselves to operate at that same level. And that's where the real conversation starts. Yes, Stefan Diggs has options. He has access to women. But the women who are genuinely going to be good for him, stable, serious, invested, those aren't the ones he's attracting. And Cardi B, for all her money, her platform, her visibility, and the advantages she carries, has had every opportunity to pursue something more grounded. But wherever you go, there you are. The issue traces back to origin. When your come-up is built on a certain energy, and that energy is what made you successful, it becomes your identity. It becomes your brand. And while that mindset can absolutely generate wealth and visibility, it works directly against you when what you're actually looking for is a stable, committed relationship. The two operate on completely different frequencies. And the type of man who has his life together, who has real standards and doesn't need to chase, when he encounters that energy, he recognizes it immediately and keeps moving, not out of judgment, but out of self-awareness. He understands his own value, and he's not going to spend time trying to reshape someone who has already decided who they are. So what ends up happening? The men who will actually tolerate that dynamic long-term are not the men worth having. And the cycle continues. We've seen this play out publicly with women throughout entertainment. Mary J. Blige is one of the most beloved artists of her generation, but for years, every difficult relationship she walked into produced a masterpiece of pain. The audience always knew, whenever Mary went through something, the next album was going to be raw and real. That pattern wasn't an accident. It was a reflection of choices that kept repeating themselves. And for the men out there thinking about reaching back out to an ex, before you make that call, do yourself a favor. Pull up her social media first. See if the things that caused friction between you two are still very much present in how she's moving. More often than not, the answer is yes. People rarely change without a real reason to, and simply losing a relationship is often not enough of a reason for someone who hasn't done the internal work. The next situation she gets into is unlikely to be better than what she had with you, because the common denominator in every relationship she's been in is her. That's what's playing out in real time with Cardi B. The reconciliation with Stefon Diggs isn't a glow-up moment, it's a signal. When someone with her resources, her fame, and her options keeps circling back to situations like this, it tells you that the external circumstances have changed, but the internal wiring hasn't. Men who have genuine options aren't going to tolerate that long term, and the ones who do tolerate it are telling you something about themselves in the process. Having attention and having real options are two very different things. A full inbox does not equal leverage, and if you are unwilling to meet the market where it is, the market will simply move on without you. That's going to do it for this one. O'Shea Duke Jackson, another episode of Celebrity Junk in the books. We're out.